I decided to start my review of all coloring books in my collection from the books with cute animals. It's one of my favorite themes to color, and maybe let's start with this beauty created by Grace G. It's Cat Coloring Therapy. Amazing Korean coloring book. And it's a book where I can color everything from the first until the last parts. I would say that because of the style of the cats in this book, they are not very intimidating to color even for beginners. I don't think that you have to spend huge amount of time by doing a very realistic fur of them. A little bit of shading could be quite enough. And if you're a beginner, you can combine pencils with felty pens, for example, for doing more realistic fur texture. And paper here for me is the best for Prismacolor pencils. Even if I also tried cheaper pencils, still Prismacolors here are my favorites. Unfortunately, so far I managed to do only 2 pictures, but I hope that I will pay more attention to this book starting from January, or maybe I can color something here in December, but I'm not sure. Definitely that's a book where everything is close to perfect, from the amount of details, a variety of subjects, because even if we have books about cats, they are in different situations. We have landscapes, we have interior designs, we can color flowers, rivers, clothes, various types of food, also different textures. So if you have just one book in your collection, you can still color it without being bored. I started my coloring journey here with this greengrocer. I think that I was attracted by his clothes. I think that he looks quite fun. Of course, I decided to make a ginger color of the fur, matching this greenish blue color of the suit. And as I said, I mostly colored it with Prismacolor pencils. Even on the background, everything blended quite well. So that's probably will be my main media for the next projects here. And then I have this picture with sunflowers. I did it this spring, and usually sunflowers are considered as one of the symbols of Ukraine, so of course I wanted to do it. Here everything is quite simple. I wanted to try polychromos pencils here, so for the stones, for the sunflowers, I mostly used polychromos pencils. Both of these pictures you can find on my channel if you also love this book. I hope that there will be more fans of Grace G coloring books, because apart from this one, she also has second part where cats attending their uncle tiger. Also adorable book, but I decided for myself that no, I don't need the second part, because here I just did 2 pictures. You can see that I wanted to do a page here during fall season, but due to the limit of time I didn't manage to finish it. Maybe I will do it later, because I do love how I started to do those leaves, very easy and relaxing. So maybe later I will finish it. And my favorite parts here is those various shops and bakeries which we have inside, like this flower shop, or here we have bakery and restaurant. That's pictures which I want to color in the most nearest future. So that's pictures which I constantly put on my to-do list, and I hope that next month I will manage to do something here. Another Korean book, it's already quite a rare book, but I think that you still can find it even on Amazon's, but price started to be higher comparing to to what it was in the very beginning. So it's the day when we finally met, and it's a book about childrenhood, about pregnancy, and about happy families. Well, I started not very happy beginning with this book because when I looked at these pictures, I decided that maybe the best choice would be to use mixed media, to do watercolor underpaint, watercolor background, and then to work on the details with pencils. And without trying my watercolors, I decided to do this adorable summer scenes. And I totally disliked how my watercolors behaved here. Nothing very ugly, but still, at first they look slightly faded in color, like slightly dirty, and paper absorbed pigment of watercolor very quickly. I wasn't able to spread it normally, to flow it, even on the sky and on the water. I wasn't able to get what I wanted to use, and I would say that I also selected too intense blue color for the water, which I immediately disliked. So I had a very unhappy beginning. Then after some time I did two projects. Here I selected this page when I tested my Mitsubishi Uno pencils, and even if I do love this final look of this adorable grandma raccoon knitting, well, Mitsubishi pencils are definitely not for this paper. They require much more toothy paper, and here paper is smooth. And I finally did my first normal project when I combined polychromos and Prismacolor pencils. Still, I can't say that I'm 100% happy here with the final look. I would say that I selected not the right color for the leaves of the roses. They look probably too dark for my taste, and I'm still not sure in this color selected for the trees, but this page it already has so many green colors. That's why I decided to do trees with slightly more reddish color of the leaves. Well, these pictures, they are very detailed, so sometimes you feel quite overwhelmed. But each and every detail, they are quite nice, quite interesting to color. You just need to find this balance. Immediately decide where will be your focal points, where you use the brightest colors, and trying to color the rest in more simplified, maybe more calm way. After maybe a year's break, not touching this book, I started from the very beginning, from these very simple pictures, which are illustrations to the Hush Little Baby Lullaby, and I managed to do several more simplified pictures, which helped me to adjust to this paper once again. Mostly I used Prismacolors here. I especially love fabric on the mother cat dress, and I tried to color everything in matching colors to have the full spread. Here I was slightly confused how to color page where we have partly lyrics from the lullaby and partly picture, but I decided that with this soft edge of the sky I can somehow color it. And I also started to experiment with using Arteza pencils because I love Arteza greens. And actually you can use also Arteza here, but I still used it together with Prismacolor pencils for better coverage and blending. Well, I think that I definitely will continue this story, and then I will try to select something from them. Second part of the book, because it's adorable and exactly what I love to color. But sometimes when you have a not very fortunate start with your new coloring book, it discourages you from doing immediately the next project. So that's how I lost a couple of years of work in this book without touching it at all. Next, of course, we have similar books but much more famous, they are by K.Egusa. I think that everyone knows her books, so I will simply and quickly show you what I have for now. Here I have Japanese editions. I have 3 books for now. Maybe later I will manage to purchase also her set of postcards, and I am crazy happy that they started to do English editions, because Dutch editions are already sold. Now they started to publish English books, and I hope that everyone will be able to have such beauty in their collection, because again, it's a book where each page will give you immense pleasure of coloring. Here I even did those title pages, which I very rarely color. But I really love all those phrases which K.Egusa put on both title pages of the books. Well, Rhapsody probably is my least favorite among the 3 books. I still love it and I want to color many pictures here. It's just you can clearly see how with each next book the style and the level of her skills, it started to be bigger and bigger. In Rhapsody, some of the pictures you can clearly see that they are digitally created, so duplicates of the ornaments, of the elements. But in second and third book we have a lesser amount of such moments. So here I have my chocolate cake. Usually for my birthdays in August, I do something related to the birthday theme. Usually I select something with birthday cake, with sweets, and that was one of such colorings. My favorite type of cake is chocolate, so of course I put it here. Well, the most challenging part was to decide what to do with the background. In the end, I opted for this almost invisible, very delicate light blue shading beneath the leaves, flowers and berries. Well, I tried to experiment with different hues of greens for the cherry leaves and for the strawberry leaves to make them different in hue and shading. And what can I say? You can clearly see here one of my tricks when I select some unique color like this blue, when I need to attract attention to some small elements which I consider like focal points or main heroes. I was afraid that because of the very ornamental wreath and ornamental cake, those cute mice cooks, they would be lost. But when I used this blue, which is a nice contrast to all other colors to this page, they immediately became the focal point of the page, so it worked quite well. As usual, I lost all my bookmarks. Here is the spread where I discovered that you can actually work with watercolors. Well, of course, I was afraid to use a lot of water, so just watercolor background very delicately, but it helped me to make this scent in very quick way. And definitely I need to use more watercolors in this Rhapsody and in Minuet, because sometimes with pencils it could be much longer, even if I absolutely enjoy how my Prismacolors work on this paper. Still, sometimes you don't want to spend all your time by covering background, and that's why I am always grateful when you can combine watercolors and pencils. So many nice pictures to do. I want to do this spread. I know, I think for 5 years already. Still, never have enough time during fall season. That was one of my Halloween colorings, when it was one and only book where I had Halloween pictures. And I think that color combo of orange, gold and magenta, violet, blue, it's my traditional color combo for Halloween. I use it everywhere during that season for all Halloween pictures, so nothing very original here. Usually I am not very good at coloring repeated elements, but on that mandala I managed to do it. Here is another example where I decided to do watercolor background first. Not the right choice of watercolor paints because it was a granulating time, but because of the no tooth of the paper it created stains because of this granulating ability. But now when I can see it, maybe it looks like a wet grass, and on top of it we have this very bright leaves which started to change color from green into yellow, ochre and orange fall colors. I deliberately decided that some of them I will color in more calm, muted ochre yellow colors, and some of them I will do in different color palette with brighter colors, so the whole background won't be very plain and boring. And of course I love raccoons. They are one of the easiest animals to color because you just need black, gray and white, maybe a little bit of black liner, and I love them in real life, and of course I love to color them. Here I made some tutorial how to do shading on the berries, on the fruits. That's another page which I always want to do, but I still haven't decided what to do with the background. Maybe again simple watercolor plain background will work quite well here. Something in lilac color, I can imagine it. Something in similar to this one. Okay, well, so here we have winter part, and again it was one of the few books where I started to color animals successfully. Shading provided by Kanoka was very helpful, and I remember that I also was very proud by my bells when I finally catched how to do normal gold, that there have to be a strong contrast between shadows, highlights, and you need to create a strong contrast. So that's where I was quite proud of my golden bells. And again, even if I don't like to do all ornaments and other wallpaper things here, it was relaxing after doing this more detailed central part. Well, here you can see how well Prismacolor pencils blend on this paper. Everything background and pine tree in Victorian style made with Prismacolors, and that's one of the papers where I absolutely enjoy doing even background with them. They blend like butter. One of my hugest projects, which I colored during a couple of months, I started in December, but I was so overwhelmed after I finished church, and all those reflections on the walls, on the snow and surrounding area, that when I looked at the right side, I realized that I have no patience, and it's better to make some break because I didn't want to mess up with the right side when I was happy with the left side. And the problem on the right side was with those circles, which in the end I turned into some kind of light halos around candles, around lanterns, but of course I would prefer to have lesser amount of them because especially on this area of candles it was boring to color all those candles and to have also those strange circles which I masked with white, which I masked with yellow, trying to make them part of the picture and in the same time trying to make them less contrast. That was challenging. You can also see that I decided that to do all the candles in the same way it would be quite boring, so some of them I painted in more intense and bright colors. What else I have here? Yeah, this very simple Easter illustration. Still it's nice, but maybe if I would add this pale sage and celadon green background throughout the page, or at least along the sides, it would look more completed probably. And here I have picture which I always want to color, but even now I am a little bit afraid. Again, I can color all elements here, but I also want to do interesting, decent background, and that's a challenge. I have to think about it. Well, I guess, no, I also have this tiny postcards on the back. It's a good part of the Japanese edition that we have this like cardstock paper with totally different texture, totally different color. So when you color on it, you have totally different experience, how your Prismacolor pencils blend and behave. That's where I discovered how fun is to color on the toned paper. Now let's move to Menuet. Again, I even did this rest on the title page. I decided that it's already very bright and detailed even without adding any shading background around, and I think that sometimes nice, simple and clear looks quite well. You don't need to overdo yourself and to complicate things by adding a background to each of the pages. Here I have this spring spread. Let me check if I am fully inside of the screen. Here we are. I love daffodils. Sometimes they are not very easy to color, especially when you do variety with white petals. Shading between petals could be complicated, but I still each time I try to test something new for such shading, sometimes a little bit more of blue, sometimes a little bit more of yellow, and this color combo of yellow, light green and blue, for me it's perfect spring color combo. I love it, even if I was quite disappointed that part of the cat and this duckling, they were so close to the binding that it wasn't very easy to color. But still I think that everything worked quite well, and I remember that this geese duck, it was quite fun to color. I love to blend black with a little bit of blue and green on the heads of the ducks to show that their feathers are very shiny. Actually, I have a lot of finished books here in the beginning of Menuet. Another page where the whole background I did with pencils, another of the colorings for my birthday. It was quite fun to color bunnies. I decided that one of them will be like father, and the rest three of the bunnies are similar to their mother. It was quite fun. And I always love how Kanoka draw flowers, botanical elements. They always look perfect. Here we have Cat's Nursery. I decided to experiment with the color of the wallpapers. At that moment, I think that it was already like third or fourth room which I colored, and it was time for crazy experiments. But I think that it worked here. I tried to support these colors by using similar colors on the pillows. Then with this bright blue I attracted attention to the kittens. Then I was afraid that the grandma cat would be lost in this darkness, so she has this very bright scarf which also helps to attract attention to her work. And I have some problems with shading on this white fabric. It was quite fun. I discovered for myself how many colors you actually need to blend in order to do realistic shading on white linen, especially under electric light. So a little bit of gray, a little bit of blue, beige. It was fun. Next one I did this spring. You can clearly see that the whole spread is about spring. Here we have a lot of children things, so I tried to select very tender, very delicate colors with just a couple of really bright accents. I love to color mimosa. Definitely in my area, mimosa is one of the first signs that spring arrives, so I was happy to find it here. I tried to divide all the elements, parts of the clothes in coloring groups, so we have something blue, something red, something pink, and it helped me to limit my color palette a little bit. Here I decided to experiment with a relatively dark background, and I did it with watercolor. It was Pearl Violet, I believe, or Caput Mortuum. They are very similar. I used it with very small amount of water, so layer is quite opaque. Exactly what I wanted to create good contrast to the artichoke and ginger root colors which I used here. Well, if you need it, this one is on my YouTube channel, and I had a lot of fun by coloring all those godlings and Mother God. That's one of my favorite spreads here, but I still don't have enough courage to start coloring it. But I can anticipate how one day I will do it. Another one from the spring part. Nice and sweet. That's one of my favorite pictures which I ever colored in my coloring life, during my coloring journey. A lot of elements, huge amount of time spent on this one, but I think that I love everything here. I learned many things: how to color metal parts, how to do different colors for the wood, how to do all those styles. I wasn't very careful with texture of fur. We have mice, we have cats, we have rabbits. I mostly concentrated on shading on their bodies. But I still think that it worked quite well. I even tried to do those balloons. It was challenging and it's far from perfect, but it's better comparing to my first attempts. So I'm quite proud of this one. I have a lot of very sweet memories about this process. Next, look at these bunnies. They are so domestic and they have so many yummy things on their shelves, prepared probably to spend winter, and a lot of beautiful fruits and vegetables around. It was quite interesting work to do. I wouldn't say that I have any problems here. Again, I decided to divide those jars and bottles into several groups, with blue inside, with red inside. It helps to get more well-balanced composition. Color of the walls was unusual for me, but I am glad that I tried it. You can see that I tried to vary color of the walls for different rooms, for different interiors in this one. And in the end, I wasn't afraid that bunnies would be lost. Bunnies, they don't have very bright fur, and with those beige and grey, they could be lost. But then I decided on this very intense red color, and it helped. Nice page, and I still love it a lot. Another one of the children's rooms, another nursery, this time with green wallpapers, where I accurately tried to show all the highlights from two sources of light, both on the walls and on the wood of the bed. Well, that was nice to color. What can I say? That's flower vase with That's flower vase with huge variety of flowers, and I used my usual trick of dividing flowers into several four color groups, and then I looked closer at reference pictures of hummingbirds, birds, to select also 2 color palettes for them, and it was quite fun to discover how bright they can be with all those purple together with emerald green, or purple together with cobalt blue. Nice birds. Here again, the most challenging part was to select what kind of background I could add to the rest. Without background it looked slightly simplified and empty, but then because of the perfect blending abilities of Prismacolor pencils, I did this a very light gradient from dark green into different hues of green, starting from more intense around the rest and less intense to the middle and to the edges, and I think that it complemented the main image. Next one I did this year, and I love both works here. This one is extremely popular. I think that I saw maybe hundreds of finished pictures, so it was a little bit difficult to start it myself. Only when it started to be less popular and I started to forget those pictures which I already saw, I decided to do it myself. Here I used most traditional colors for the faded color of the wall, old bricks, wood, and what can I say? Again, bunnies I decided to do with 2 colors of fur, but honestly my favorite part was to color watering can and this milk jar balloon. Anyway, and all those terracotta flower pots. They are definitely much easier to color comparing to all other elements. And here, look at this huge pencil background. I wasn't able to believe myself that I did it with pencils. Usually not my thing, and only on the very good paper I can enjoy doing such things. But I think that it helped to create atmosphere of a wet, rainy morning in the forest. My mice, they already started to maybe look for their breakfast. I think that those 3 bright mushrooms helped to attract attention to the central part of it, and then again you can see that the rest of them I again divided into color groups. Well, those morning beauty, sorry guys, I forgot how to color these flowers, but again it's quite challenging when you color actually white flowers, but you still need to do some shading to show their volume. Lily of the Valley, yeah. So here I tried to do shading with lavender, with blue, and then I outlined them with white Posca. Well, a lot of things to discover for myself, because I think that this color combo which I used on the mushrooms, it was the first time when I blended together those clay rose and brown colors from Prismacolor set. Anyway, I am also proud of this spreads, one of my best works during this year. Next. I have this one very old, where I tried to use polychromos pencils on the palace, and I was crazy disappointed. I wasn't able to blend them smoothly. I dropped them immediately, and then I returned to my lovely Prismacolors. I don't know why polychromoses don't like this paper, or maybe it's just for my technique of pressing quite hard on the pencils. Anyway, I consoled myself by decorating this page with a lot of metallic watercolors, so everything is very shiny and we have beautiful fireworks. Here I have this very popular beach scene. It's a very popular video on my channel, and I already saw many beautiful variations of this one, so I'm not sure how many of them are from myself, how many I repeated. And again, my favorite part here is this relaxing frog and those umbrellas which I finally managed to color not as flat but as 3-dimensional. Another one of the old fall works. It was a period when I didn't bother myself with masking black lines. I think that I only had white gel pen, so I didn't think about outlining everything. Here I have another fall spread. I still think that it's one of my best works on the fur, on the foxes, because to color foxes during fall season it's easier. They start to have a slightly more contrast color with bigger amount of dark hairs on the fur, and I tried to show it here. And of course it has raccoon. I love raccoons, and it was quite fun to experiment with all those leaves. Here I think that I was a little bit crazy when I did this sky background. Apart from these idiotic stars, everything else is okay. I think that I did those idiotic dots around stars because I wasn't happy with the sky background. I used different color softs. I wanted to save my prismas. And color softs didn't want to lay smoothly here, they created stains, so I tried to mask them with all those white dots. It didn't help the final look of the page, obviously. Next, another finished spread and another nursery. You can see that I'm already feel like a real interior designer for nurseries for bunnies and cats. Here I opted for more delicate, maybe girlish peach colors for the interior. The only thing where I was totally confused, those butterflies. Maybe they are part of the tent, maybe they represent something that bunnies are reading about. In the end, I tried to mask them in the best possible way. Everything else is quite okay. And here I have this tropical page. I absolutely love to color birds. For me, they are much easier comparing to animals. And I do love to color tropical flowers. Here I have this Christmas shopping window. I think that I already mentioned it several times, that I decided to turn it into winter page time before Christmas, maybe because she has this coat with fur on her, and I sprinkled white paint on top to create atmosphere of falling snow. Well, interesting, not very boring when you start to do these objects, and much more boring when you need to do all those shelves. I decided to make impression that some light is coming from the upper part of the shop window. That's why I used bigger amount of bright yellow, and the rest is in more calm colors because I didn't want my cat to be lost against all those colorful things. Next I have this winter wreath with poinsettias, very traditional colors, nothing very complicated. And as I already mentioned in previous videos, that I need to learn how to draw such a beautiful snowflakes, perfect shape. I need to learn and to add them to my next winter coloring. Okay, here we have everything about shopping. Here we have this shopping passage and Mr. Frog. He's very elegant. Here I finally learned for myself how to show properly highlights and folds on the dark, almost black fabric. Again, because of the perfect capability of Prismacolor pencils to blend and to lay smoothly. And here I have my shop full of various shoes. It was fun to imagine which one is made from velvet, which one is made from silk or from leather. I again divided them into several coloring groups, and I tried to show what are they made from. On the leather we have more intense highlight. On the velvet shoe we can't see such a strong highlights, but on the silk bow highlights and contrasts, again, they will be slightly stronger, and that's how I color this one. I am glad that I didn't do any bright, complicated background. Instead, this slate gray, it worked quite well to create nice and delicate shading to finish this page. Here I have one of my favorite pictures which I ever colored, and I was proud of many things here. By fur of the cat, how I managed to do reflection into the surface of the on the glass of this mirror. Now I colored already many pictures with glass, with mirrors, but it was first successful attempt, and also first successful attempt to do this bronze or old gold frame, and of course all those glass jars and bottles. Another one, this one I partly copied by Shirley Tutopia. I copied her idea to add more flowers to the flower compositions, but at least flowers I draw myself, simply because I wasn't able to draw such beautiful flowers as Shirley did. So what I was able to add, I added. I can't say that they look perfect, but it was a fun idea, and it helped to slightly fill in empty areas. Here we have another interior. This time we have the dressing room. Next, it's one of my oldest works, and I still don't know how I managed to do this wooden frame. I still think that it really looks quite nice, and now, after maybe already 4 years, I wouldn't be able to do such thing. It was like a happy moment for myself. Now my wood looks much more simplified. Maybe I need to rewatch my own video. Here it's nice and simple. I wanted to finally color something in Japanese part of this book, so I colored this one because I was interested in this K.Egusa bird. Indeed, it has such interesting olive color of feathers, and it was the reason why I did this page. Next, I have this crazy spread. I don't know why Kanoka mixed so many things here. A lot of elements are perfect, like this cat, chrysanthemum flowers, this boat and frog, the lady under the umbrella. But some of the elements, they are just too much. Too many too many flying things here, too many different ornaments. Those fans, they are nice, but those repeating designs, and they are inside of the image. Well, I would prefer lesser amount of them, and when you have birds in the similar size of insects, it also looks a little bit fun. But I think that I managed to color it in the best way possible. Still very overwhelming, especially on the left side, but when I look at this part, I love this coloring. You know, my love to Alice in Wonderland books and all pictures connected to it, so of course I wanted to do this one. Here I tried to do mirror or glass background. I wasn't very successful with it, but at least I can clearly I try to attract more attention to the Alice signs. So her traditional blue dress, those roses which they started to paint in order to change color. I think that in the end it was an interesting coloring, so I wasn't very disappointed even with not very successful background. Next I have this very simple picture which I selected because I was able to do this small individual quick projects and slightly blotchy watercolor background. Here I used watercolor with white pigment, so it was semi-opaque, and I can say that I managed to lay it down very well. Maybe I need to apply another layer in order to get rid of those blotches and white spots. That's my summer work. Again, because of the sunflowers I started this one, and surprisingly, even if it was long because of the size, it was fun to do. Everything worked quite well. Again, sad thing that this very brave ginger cat, my favorite color of the cat's fur, it was partly lost inside of the binding, and I totally wasn't able to open it bigger to color it fully. So that was my only disappointment here. And again, you can see this trick, how with bright colors here, 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 and here, and here, I try to attract attention to the main characters. And despite all the bright colors on the sunflowers and flowers here, still because of this primary, unique, bright colors, we can immediately look at the most important elements of the page. Well, here I also have a couple of postcards. And finally, we are moving to symphony. If we talk about pictures, that's definitely my favorite among the books of K.Egusa. But I still struggle with paper. I was surprised to discover that even if it's also Japanese edition, I can't blend my Prismacolor pencils here as smoothly as I do in Menuet or Rhapsody. Something feels slightly different. But polychromos pencils, they also don't want to blend very well. So I still can't decide which is my main media here. This one I did partly with polychromoses and partly with Prismacolors. But here it was okay because we have mostly ornaments, small details, so we don't need to cover relatively big areas where it's important to blend and to lay down pencils smoothly. Well, I think that everything here worked quite well, and only now I noticed that I missed the tail. People, I posted this picture many times. I've shown it in the video and I just now noticed about this tail. Well, I promised to finish it immediately after I finished to film this video because it's a fun thing. I don't know how I managed to miss it. It's stupid. Well, that was my first project in this book, and that's where I discovered that actually I can't do smooth gradient on the background. It started to look dirty when I started to add a more dark color on top of the jasmine and ochre, and I was confused because on the Menuet you can blend and apply as many layers as you want to. But despite these slightly dirty walls of the restaurant, everything else is quite well, mostly because the picture is very cute and fun, and you look more at the fun elements here than on my dirty colorings. At least I hope so. Oh, this was the page for this Halloween. I try to color at least one page a month, so that's how I managed to do several pictures. Even if I just got this book this summer, it was one of my best additions to the collection during this year. So here we have Halloween. Mostly I used here Prismacolors, but also a couple of polychromoses. Next, it's my November work, which I did for challenge, coloring with Ukraine, dedicated to all wild and domestic animals which suffered from war. But I decided to do a very nice and peaceful scene. I imagined that here we have like home party when the bear invites his friends to his new home, this wigwam tent. It's definitely a fall picture because of all those yellow leaves. And for me, the most challenging part was this intense blue color. I already knew that to blend on this paper is challenging, and blue colors, sometimes they are even harder to blend among other pencils. Maybe it's some cobalt pigment or something else. So I was very careful. I blended slowly, and I think that it worked in the end. And where it didn't work, I masked it with those stars in white and blue color. And finally, I have page where I started with polychromasis. I even tried to add very light shades of Castle Art pastel tints, but don't do it. Castle Art pastel tints are definitely not for this paper. They feel waxy, scratchy, so it's better to use mix of Prismacolors and polychromasis. I was quite interested in this challenge to do this as a symphony in blue and lilac, probably purple, so different shades and hues of blue and violet colors for various flowers and even for butterflies, which were my least favorite element of this page. They are too big for my taste, especially comparing with irises and other flowers. My favorite flower here is anemone. When I colored it, I was somehow sure that I would ruin it, but in the end everything worked quite well when I added this dark central part. Well, that's my story with books of cute animals, and of course I hope that they will be constantly on my working table, and during the next year I will add many new pictures in all of these books which I shown you in this video. Thank you, and I hope that I didn't talk too much. Until the next videos.